Report has it that China incubates thousands of startups with new ideas every day. The likely goal of such a policy is to ensure that people within the Chinese economy with good ideas will be supported to take such ideas to the market. In the case of Nigeria, only a few hundred startups get incubated annually, with many of them not seeing the light of day due to issues such as lack of funding, poor infrastructure, weak curriculum, and the like. Innovation hubs are meant to bridge this gap and ensure that startups are supported with resources necessary to get them to the market. Our guest today is Ifedi Eze, COO TechX Innovation Hub. He shares a few of his thoughts on issues affecting technology startups and the growth of the ecosystem in general.
Across all sectors of our national life, technology has transformed the way that we live. You think about social media, you think, people interact better now. People can have conversations even though they are not physically present. And again, social media has made it easy for small businesses, people who have small businesses, to be able to, to advertise their products and make transactions. There are lots of business transactions that go on social media every day. Again, you see how fintech solutions have helped to, transform financial transactions all across the country. People who previously did not have access to some financial products and services can now be able to transact and have, their transactions happen. Even in the agricultural sector, we have an increasing, there's an increase in the number of investments and the activities that happen in that sector, because again, technology has transformed the way agriculture is done. So people, for example, can live, from the comfort of their offices or their homes, invest in agricultural projects without having to physically be present.
Nigeria is said to be a country with a lot of potentials. How can we best harness these potentials using technology?
Okay, so you see, the conversation about potential, I like to, I like to reword. And so instead of talk about potential, we talk about challenges. Because really the potentials that exist in this country lies in the challenges that we face. So you see people, they complain about infrastructure, they complain about bad roads, they complain about, inability to access credit. All of these things, they present potentials for business, for improved living. But again, technology is the only way that we can begin to solve these problems in a sustainable manner and in a very scalable manner. Because, for example, think about the fact that there are a lot of unbanked people in Nigeria. And no matter how the financial institutions try, the banks, it's hard. It's hard for them to be able to reach, because the investment that is needed to establish brick and mortar presence in the rural areas and all of that. But you see how technology can help solve that. Because right now, with the use of a device, you can get a lot of people to onboard on, on financial solutions that are driven by technology. So there's a lot of potentials. There's a lot of, so I like to tell people that every time you look at the challenges, the things that we call challenges, then call them potentials, because in those challenges lie enormous potential, and only technology can help us, solve those problems in a very sustainable, affordable, and scalable manner.
So, following up on that question, what are some of the other challenges you think is affecting the growth of the ecosystem?
Now, we have to approach that conversation not just from the lens of tech startups per se, because these challenges are challenges that every business face. The state of our infrastructure as a company is very, very poor. Because again, some of these challenges are not challenges peculiar to just the technology startups. They are challenges that every business face. So we talk about power. Technology consumes power, and without adequate, affordable, consistent, and reliable power, it will be very difficult for startups, especially tech startups, to grow, because then you will consider the amount of investment that goes into providing alternative energy. You find out that that's something that is not sustainable, especially for a startup, because usually in our reality, most startups are actually self-funded, and there's a lot of, there's a high level of bootstrapping that needs to be done. So by the time you include some of these other infrastructure deficits that they now have to take into consideration in running their businesses, it becomes a major challenge for them to scale. We can also have a conversation around government policy. For example, talk about the issue of taxation. So the idea is that a company is supposed to be taxed on her profits. Okay? So how about when I'm not making profit? Even though I think that there are some some room that has been made for that in our company law, in our taxation laws. But again, at the local government level and at the state level, this consideration does not exist, because the guy just opens shop and then some guys show up and they're asking you for all sorts of levies and all sorts of, you see, but the guy is not even making money yet. So it's a major challenge that government has to be seen as an enabler for business growth and not a spoiler.
Looking at the landscape today, what are some of the other challenges and opportunities that you see that you think that technology can help us take advantage of?
I was looking at a report some day ago, and it says that in the area, fintech has grossed the most investment in our ecosystem, and because that's a real problem. The CBN in 2014 came up with an initiative to try to reduce the number of, the population of unbanked people to about 20%, and that's a huge area, that's a huge gap that people need to come in and the surface has not even been scratched. So that's a huge opportunity. We need to look at people, we need to look at access to credit. We need to look at access to banking services. People need to be able to keep their money in such a way that it is safe and is accessible whenever they want it.
Finally, I know you mentioned government a little bit, but let's look at also government in the broader scheme of things. What role do you think government should play to ensure that the ecosystem grows, just like it's happening in many other countries of the world?
First, I think that government should provide subventions and subsidies for private players in the tech ecosystem. Now, again, I think that government should be the biggest off-taker for technology products. So, we have a lot of gaps in government, and I believe that the kind of collaboration that can start happening between government and the tech ecosystem is such that, players in the system begin to design technology products that help to solve, gaps in government processes across all tiers of government, whether it's at state level, whether it's at federal, whether it's at local. That's something. And government has to enact policies that help to support indigenous technology. So we need to support the technology products that come out of Nigeria and give preference to that, as opposed to importing technology from anywhere. Because except government begins to provide some of these safeguards, then there is only a level to which the industry or the ecosystem can grow. So these are some of the things that I think we need to start having conversations around with government. And of course, I mentioned earlier about the taxation. I think private players, players in the private sector in the tech ecosystem should have some level of tax reliefs that help, because again, what we are doing is novel. So people are coming up with solutions that we don't even know if it will succeed. But then if it succeeds, everybody benefits, including government. So there should be some consideration given for that. So we are saying that because this is novel, this is it should be, we have a tax relief called pioneer status. I think people in the technology ecosystem should be, they should be able to take advantage of those kind of tax reliefs to help them scale their operations. Otherwise, we'll have a situation where, companies are trying to stand, but the burden of taxation makes it almost difficult for them. Again, if we have good technology, we can even help government with issues around tax compliance.
Ifeadi, thank you for being on the show today, and we wish you all the very best.
Thank you, Fred. It was nice.
My guest has been Ifeadi Eze, COO TechX Innovation Hub. That's our show for today. We are Tech Trends TV on social media. This edition, as well as the previous ones, can be seen on the Channels TV YouTube account or via cfablog.ng. For Tech Trends, I'm Chukwemeka Agbata.